At Easter lunch, my brother threw his fork at me when I said no to putting his name on my house. "You're a joke," he shouted. My dad said, "You don't deserve this family." I wiped my hands, walked to the hallway, and called the title office contact. "Put this house in my name only." They get nothing. 30 minutes later, "My name is Bruce. I am 40 years old. For the last 18 years, I have been a city zoning inspector in a mid-sized town where nothing ever changes and everyone knows your business before you do. If there is one thing I have learned about my family, it is this: reliability makes you invisible, and invisibility makes you disposable." I was always the one they called when the car broke down at 2 in the morning. I was always the one who showed up with groceries when Mom had surgery 3 years ago, staying for 2 weeks while Mason, my younger brother by 5 years, was too busy with his sales job to visit more than twice. I was the one who paid half the funeral costs when our grandfather died, even though Mason made twice my salary in commissions. Nobody asked me to do these things. I just did them. That is what you do for family, I thought. Mason was the golden one. Always has been. He played varsity football in high school while I ran the scoreboard. He married Rebecca, a dental hygienist with perfect teeth and a loud laugh, in a ceremony that cost $30,000. Mom cried through the entire reception. Dad gave a toast about how proud he was to see his son building such a beautiful life. I was mentioned once, in passing, as the reliable older brother who helped with the rehearsal dinner setup. I bought my house 12 years ago. A small 3-bedroom ranch on Cypress Lane, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I saved for the down payment while living in a studio apartment that smelled like old carpet and heating oil. I closed on the property alone. No family showed up to the closing. Mason sent a text. "Congrats, bro. Busy day. Catch you later." 6 months ago, I was reviewing updated zoning maps for the Eastern District when I noticed something unusual. Cypress Lane and the 4 blocks surrounding it were being rezoned from residential to mixed-use commercial. The change was buried in a Planning Commission amendment, scheduled to go live in 8 months. I sat at my desk, staring at the highlighted section, and felt my stomach drop. Rezoning meant development. Development meant value. I started digging. Permit applications, environmental surveys, corporate LLCs with vague names registering interest in the area. Then I found it. A hotel chain, one of the big ones, had quietly been buying up properties on Cypress Lane through shell companies. They were assembling a footprint for a flagship location. My house, along with the 6 others on my block, sat right in the center of their target zone. I did not tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Mason. I called a real estate appraiser I trusted and asked for a private assessment. He came on a Saturday, walked the property, checked comparables, and called me 2 days later. "Your house is worth about $340,000 on the current market," he said. "But with this rezoning and the hotel interest, you could see offers in the million range. Maybe more if they need your lot to complete the site." I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat on my back porch and thought about what that money could mean. I could sell. I could split the windfall with Mason. We could each buy smaller homes, maybe help Mom and Dad downsize, start fresh. I imagined telling them at a family dinner, watching their faces light up. For once, I would not be invisible. For once, I would be the son who changed everything. But I did not say anything. Not yet. I wanted to plan it perfectly. I wanted the moment to be right. Then Easter came. The dining room smelled like glazed ham and Mom's scalloped potatoes. The table was set with the good china, the kind that only came out twice a year. Mason and Rebecca sat across from me. Dad was at the head of the table, carving the ham with theatrical precision. Mom hovered near the kitchen, refilling water glasses no one had touched. I should have seen it coming. Mason had been unusually chatty all morning, asking questions about my job, about the neighborhood, about property taxes. He never asked about property taxes. Halfway through the meal, he set down his knife and looked at me with that salesman grin he used when closing deals. "So, Bruce," he said, leaning back in his chair, "Rebecca and I have been talking. We want to invest in real estate. Your place on Cypress Lane, it has good bones, right?" I nodded slowly. "It is fine. We were thinking," he continued, glancing at Rebecca, who smiled on cue. "What if we became co-owners? You put my name on the deed, we split costs and future profits. It is a smart move. Keeps it in the family." The room went quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I set my fork down carefully. "Why would I do that?" I asked. Mason's grin faltered. Because we are family, Bruce. You have been sitting on that house for 12 years. Rebecca and I could help you maximize the investment. We have connections. We know people. I bought that house alone, I said, keeping my voice even. I pay the mortgage alone. It is mine. Come on, Mason said, his tone shifting, sharper now. Do not be selfish. You have always been weird about money. This is a win for both of us. No, I said. That is when he snapped. Mason grabbed his fork and threw it across the table. It hit my shoulder and clattered onto my plate. The sound echoed in the stunned silence. You are a joke, he shouted, standing up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. You have always been a joke. Sitting in your little house, your little job, acting like you are better than everyone. I stared at him. My hands were shaking, but I did not move. Dad slammed his palm on the table. Mason is right, Bruce. You do not deserve this family. You hoard everything. Your brother is trying to help you, and you spit in his face. Mom said nothing. She looked down at her plate, her lips pressed into a thin line. Rebecca touched Mason's arm, whispering something I could not hear. He shook her off. You know what? Mason said, his voice dripping with contempt. Keep your house. Keep your sad little life. But do not come crawling to us when you need help. I stood up. I did not say a word. I picked up my napkin, wiped my hands, and walked toward the hallway. My chest felt tight, like someone had reached in and squeezed. Behind me, I heard Mason muttering something to Dad, their voices low and conspiratorial. I pulled out my phone. My hands were still shaking, but my fingers moved with absolute clarity. I scrolled to my contacts and found the number for the title office I had saved 3 weeks ago, just in case. I pressed call. A woman answered on the second ring. Cascade Title Services, this is Grace. This is Bruce Ramirez, I said quietly, my voice steady now. I need to confirm that the deed for 428 Cypress Lane is in my name only. No co-owners. No joint tenancy. Just me. There was a pause, the sound of typing. Yes, Mr. Ramirez. The property is solely in your name. Good, I said. Keep it that way. I am about to make some changes. They get nothing. I ended the call. Then I scrolled to another number. The one I had been avoiding for 2 months. The regional acquisitions manager for Grandstone Hotels. I pressed dial and waited. The phone rang 3 times before a man answered. Bruce, good to hear from you, he said. His name was Philip, mid-50s, polished voice, the kind of guy who always sounded like he was closing a deal. I was starting to think you were not interested. I am interested, I said. I want to accept your offer. There was a pause. I could hear him shifting in his seat, probably sitting up straighter. The 1.2 million? Yes. That is great news, Philip said, his voice warming. We can move fast on this. I can have our team at your property tomorrow to start surveys if you are ready. I glanced back toward the dining room. I could hear Mason's voice, still loud, still complaining. Dad was agreeing with something. Mom was silent. Actually, I said, can you send someone today? I am at a family gathering right now. It would be convenient. Philip hesitated. Today? It is Easter Sunday. I know, I said, but I am ready to move forward immediately. If your team can come in the next hour, I will sign preliminary paperwork tonight. He did not hesitate long. Let me make some calls. I will text you an ETA. Thank you, I said, and hung up. I stood in the hallway for a moment, staring at the wallpaper with its faded floral pattern. I had been in this house 1,000 times. Family dinners, Thanksgiving, Christmas mornings. I used to think these walls held memories worth protecting. Now they just felt like a stage where I had been playing the wrong role for too long. I walked out the front door without saying goodbye. Nobody called after me. In my car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel and stared at my parents' house through the windshade. The lights were warm inside. Through the window, I could see Mason gesturing, probably telling another story about how difficult I was. Dad would nod. Mom would clear plates. Rebecca would laugh at the right moments. For 18 years, I had believed that showing up, staying quiet, and being dependable made me valuable. I thought that if I just kept giving, eventually they would see me. Really see me. Not as the backup plan or the emergency contact, but as someone worth celebrating. I was wrong. The property on Cypress Lane was not just my house. It was my escape route. And 6 months ago, when I found out about the rezoning, I had started planning without realizing it. I researched. I calculated. I saved every email from Grandstone Hotels. I kept the appraisal report in a locked drawer. I prepared, not because I wanted revenge, but because some part of me always knew this moment would come. Mason wanted my house. He wanted to slap his name on a deed he had no part in earning, just like he had slapped his name on every family achievement while I stood in the background. Dad wanted me to hand it over like I handed over everything else, my time, my money, my dignity. But I was done handing things over. My phone buzzed. A text from Philip, team en route. ETA 30 minutes. Meet at your property. I texted back. Actually, send them to 822 Laurel Drive. That is where I am. They can start surveys from here. I smiled for the first time all day. Then I started the car and drove back to my parents' house. I parked on the street instead of the driveway. Through the front window, I could see them still at the table. Mason was laughing now, his earlier rage apparently forgotten. Rebecca was on her phone. Dad was pouring himself another glass of wine. Mom was bringing out dessert, a coconut cake she had made from scratch. I walked back inside. The screen door creaked. Nobody looked up. I sat back down in my chair. My plate was still there, fork balanced on the edge where Mason had thrown it. I picked it up, wiped it with my napkin, and set it aside. Glad you came back, Dad said, not looking at me. Thought you were going to sulk in the car all afternoon. Just needed some air, I said. Mason smirked. You always were dramatic. I did not respond. I cut a piece of ham, chewed slowly, and watched the clock on the wall. 23 minutes had passed since Philip's text. Mom set a slice of cake in front of me. Eat something sweet, she said quietly. It will help. I nodded. Thank you. Rebecca was scrolling through her phone, half listening to Mason's story about a client who had bought a ridiculous amount of insurance. She laughed in the right places, a practice sound. I wondered if she knew what Mason had asked me to do earlier. I wondered if she cared. At the 28-minute mark, I heard car doors closing outside. 2 of them. Heavy doors, the kind on SUVs. I set down my fork. Expecting someone? Dad asked, glancing toward the window. Not exactly, I said. The doorbell rang. Mom looked confused. Who would visit on Easter? I will get it, I said, standing up. I walked to the front door and opened it. 2 men stood on the porch. One was older, maybe 60, wearing khakis and a polo shirt with the Grandstone Hotel's logo embroidered on the chest. The other was younger, mid-30s, holding a clipboard and a tablet. Both of them looked professional, efficient, like they had done this 100 times. Mr. Ramirez, the older man said. That is me. I am Xavier, and this is Tyler. Philip sent us. We are here to begin the preliminary property survey for the Cypress Lane acquisition. Great, I said. Come in. I stepped aside and let them in. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping. Mason's voice, sharp and confused, cut through the air. Who the hell is that? I turned and gestured toward the dining room. Xavier, Tyler, this is my family. We were just finishing Easter lunch. Xavier nodded politely. Sorry to interrupt, folks. This will only take a few minutes. Mason stood up, his face flushed. What is going on, Bruce? These gentlemen are from Grandstone Hotels, I said calmly. They are here to survey my property on Cypress Lane. I accepted their offer about 30 minutes ago. The room went silent. Mason's mouth opened, then closed. Dad set down his wine glass. Rebecca's phone slipped slightly in her hand. You what? Mason said finally, his voice low and dangerous. I sold the house, I said. For $1.2 million. Tyler held up his tablet. We will need to confirm the property lines and check adjacent lots as well. Is 430 Cypress Lane owned by anyone here? That was Mason's house. The one he bought 2 years ago, right next to mine. Mason's face went white. Mason lunged toward me, but Dad grabbed his arm. Wait, Dad said, his voice hard. Explain this, Bruce. Now. I stayed calm. I had practiced this moment in my head a dozen times on the drive back. 6 months ago, I found out Cypress Lane was being rezoned for commercial development. Grandstone Hotels has been buying up properties to build a flagship location. They needed my lot to complete the site footprint. They made me an offer. I accepted. You knew for 6 months? Mason's voice cracked. You knew and you did not tell me? Why would I? I asked. You made it very clear today that I am a joke, that I do not deserve this family. Why would I share anything with people who think so little of me? Rebecca stood up, her hands shaking. Mason's house is right next to yours. If they are building a hotel, what happens to his property? Xavier, the older surveyor, cleared his throat. May I? I nodded. He pulled up a map on Tyler's tablet and turned it toward the table. This is the planned site. We need these 6 lots to complete the project. He pointed to a cluster of properties, including mine. Mr. Ramirez's lot is central to the design. Without it, the project does not move forward. The adjacent property at 430 Cypress Lane falls outside the primary footprint. It would be landlocked once we begin construction. Mason's face went from white to red. Landlocked. What does that mean? It means, I said quietly, your property will lose most of its value. No access road. No commercial development potential. Just a residential house next to a construction zone, then a hotel parking structure. You son of a... Mason started toward me again, but Dad blocked him. This is insane, Dad said, turning to me. You are destroying your brother over a stupid argument? Over a fork. This is not about a fork, I said. My voice was steady, cold. This is about 18 years of being invisible. 18 years of paying for things, showing up, doing the work, and getting nothing but contempt in return. You want to know why I did not tell you about the rezoning? Because I knew exactly what would happen. Mason would demand a cut. You would side with him. Mom would stay silent. And I would hand it over, just like I always do. Mom finally spoke. Her voice was small. Bruce, we never asked you to. You did not have to ask, I said. I just gave. And you just took. Tyler stepped forward. Mr. Ramirez, we should probably step outside for the measurements. One more thing, I said, looking directly at Mason. You wanted your name on my deed. You wanted co-ownership. If I had said yes, you would have been entitled to half the sale. That would have been $600,000 for doing absolutely nothing. But I said no. And now you get nothing. Mason's breathing was ragged. You planned this. You brought them here to humiliate me. No, I said. I brought them here because it was convenient. The humiliation is just a bonus. Xavier and Tyler exchanged a glance. Xavier gestured toward the door. We will wait outside. They left. The dining room felt suffocating. Mason was pacing now, his hands in his hair. Rebecca sat back down, staring at the table. Dad looked at me like I was a stranger. You are not the son I raised, Dad said. Good, I said. Because the son you raised was a doormat. And I am done being walked on. I turned and walked out. Xavier and Tyler followed me back to my house on Cypress Lane. The sun was starting to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the yard. I unlocked the front door and led them inside. Sorry about that, Xavier said as Tyler set up his equipment in the living room. Family stuff can get complicated. It is fine, I said. They will get over it. I did not believe that, and I did not care. While Tyler took measurements and photos, I went to my home office and pulled out the filing cabinet in the corner. Inside were 6 months of research, zoning maps, email chains with Philip from Grandstone, appraisal reports, property tax records, a timeline I had built showing when each house on the block had been approached by the hotel shell companies. I had not just stumbled into this sale. I had orchestrated it. 3 months ago, I contacted a real estate attorney I trusted and asked a hypothetical question. If someone owned property in a rezoning area and a family member tried to claim co-ownership after the fact, could they succeed? The attorney had been blunt. Not unless their name is on the deed or they can prove financial contribution to the mortgage. Verbal promises mean nothing. I made sure Mason had no claim. I reviewed every payment I had ever made on the house. Every tax bill. Every utility statement. My name was the only one on anything that mattered. I even pulled my credit report to confirm no one had fraudulently added themselves to my accounts. 2 months ago, I started documenting everything Mason asked me for. Small favors. Loans he never repaid. The time he borrowed my truck and returned it with an empty gas tank and a dent in the bumper. I kept a spreadsheet. Dates. Amounts. Screenshots of texts where he promised to pay me back and never did. I did not do this because I wanted revenge. I did this because I knew my family. I knew that the moment they found out about the money, they would come for it. And I needed to be ready. Tyler knocked on the office door. Mr. Ramirez, we are done with the interior. Can we walk the property lines? Of course. Outside, the air was cooler. Tyler used a laser measuring tool to mark boundaries while Xavier took notes. Next door, I could see Mason's house. The lights were off. He and Rebecca had not come home yet. They were probably still at Mom and Dad's, trying to figure out what to do. Your brother's place, Xavier said, nodding toward the house. He bought that 2 years ago? Yes. Tough break for him. Location was great when this was all residential. But once we start construction, the noise, The dust, the road closures, it is going to tank his resale value. I said nothing. I just watched as Tyler placed a small orange flag in the ground, marking the corner of my lot. Xavier checked his tablet. The legal team will reach out to you tomorrow with the full contract. We are looking at a 60-day escrow if you are comfortable with that timeline. That works, I said. And just so you know, Xavier added, we will need to contact the other property owners on this block as well. Some of them have already accepted offers. A couple are still holding out. But your lot was the keystone. Without it, the whole project stalls. I understand. Xavier smiled. You made a smart move, Mr. Ramirez. Not everyone recognizes an opportunity like this. I thought about Mason throwing the fork. I thought about Dad's voice, cold and dismissive, telling me I did not deserve the family. I thought about all the years I spent trying to earn a place at a table where I was never really welcome. I had good motivation, I said. Tyler finished the measurements and packed up his equipment. Xavier shook my hand. We will be in touch. They drove away, leaving me standing in my front yard. The street was quiet. A few houses down, I could see Mrs. Hill watering her garden. She waved. I waved back. Inside, I sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. I pulled up the spreadsheet I had been building for 2 months. Every favor, every loan, every time I showed up and they did not. Then I deleted it. I did not need it anymore. The call started 3 hours later. The first was from Mason. I let it go to voicemail. He did not leave a message. The second was from Dad. I answered. You need to stop this, he said. No greeting. No preamble. Stop what? This sale. This ridiculous stunt. You are tearing this family apart. I leaned back in my chair. The family tore itself apart a long time ago, Dad. I am just the first one to notice. Mason is beside himself, Dad said. Do you have any idea what you have done to him? His house is going to be worthless. Rebecca is furious. Your mother is crying. And yet, I said, nobody is asking why I did it. There was a long silence. Then, quietly, why did you do it? Because I was tired of being invisible, I said. Because I was tired of being the fallback. The emergency fund. The reliable one who never got a thank you. And because when I finally said no to something, Mason threw a fork at me and you told me I did not deserve this family. So I decided to prove you right. Dad's voice hardened. You are being selfish. Good, I said. It is about time. I hung up. The third call came 20 minutes later. It was Mason. This time, I answered. Bruce. His voice was shaking. Please. You have to undo this. You have to call them back and cancel. I cannot do that, I said. I signed preliminary paperwork an hour ago. The deal is moving forward. You are destroying me. Mason shouted. Do you understand that? My house is going to lose $200,000 in value. Maybe more. Rebecca and I were going to sell in 5 years and upgrade. Now we are stuck. You should have thought about that before you called me a joke. I was angry. Mason's voice cracked. I said things I did not mean. But you planned this. You knew about the rezoning for 6 months, and you did not say anything. You let me buy that house. You let me think everything was fine. I did not let you do anything, I said. You made your own choices. I made mine. This is not fair, Mason said, and I could hear the desperation now, the panic. You are my brother. We are supposed to help each other. Help goes both ways, I said. And for 18 years, it only went one direction. What do you want? Mason asked. Money? An apology? Tell me what you want, and I will do it. I thought about that for a long moment. I thought about all the times I had wanted an apology. All the times I had wanted them to see me, really see me, and choose me for once. I do not want anything from you, I said. Not anymore. I hung up. The fourth call came at 9 p.m. It was Mom. Bruce, please come over, she said. Her voice was soft, tired. Let us talk about this like a family. There is nothing to talk about, I said. Mason is devastated. He is talking about lawyers. About suing you. He can try, I said. But I reviewed everything with an attorney 3 months ago. The property is mine. The decision is mine. There is no legal claim. This is not about the law, Mom said. This is about family. Family, I repeated. The same family that threw a fork at me today? The same family that told me I did not deserve them? That family. Mom was silent. I gave you 18 years, I said. I gave you everything I had, and it was never enough. So I am done giving. Bruce. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up and turned off my phone. The fifth call never came, because I did not give them the chance. At 10 p.m., I drafted an email to Philip at Grandstone Hotels. I confirmed the 60-day escrow. I confirmed the purchase price. And I added one line. Please proceed with contacting the remaining property owners on Cypress Lane. I am ready to close as soon as possible. I hit send. Then I poured myself a glass of water, sat on my back porch, and looked out at the yard I would not own much longer. The grass needed mowing. The fence needed a fresh coat of paint. None of it mattered now. In 60 days, I would walk away with $1.2 million. I would buy a smaller place somewhere quiet. Maybe near the coast. Maybe in the mountains. Somewhere my family did not know. Somewhere I could finally be invisible on my own terms. For the first time in 18 years, I felt light. The next 8 weeks moved faster than I expected. Grandstone's legal team was efficient. Contracts were signed. Title was transferred. Inspections were completed. I packed my belongings into boxes and labeled them with care. Books, kitchen, office, personal. I did not have much. 18 years of living alone had taught me not to accumulate things I did not need. Mason tried twice more to contact me. Once through a lawyer who sent a letter claiming I had engaged in fraudulent concealment by not disclosing the rezoning. My attorney responded with a single-page letter citing public record laws. The zoning change had been published in the City Planning Bulletin for 6 months. Ignorance was not grounds for a claim. The lawyer did not write back. The second time, Mason showed up at my door. It was a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks before closing. I saw his car pull up through the front window, and I did not answer the door. He knocked for 5 minutes. Then he sat on the porch steps for 20 more. Finally, he left. I did not feel guilty. I felt nothing. Mom sent a card. It arrived 4 days before closing. Inside, she had written, "I hope you find what you are looking for." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a vague, passive sentence that absolved her of responsibility. I threw it away. Dad did not reach out at all. On closing day, I met Philip and the Grandstone legal team at the title office. The room was sterile and bright, with fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly. I signed page after page. Initials here. Signature there. Acknowledgement of terms. Transfer of deed. Release of liability. When it was done, Philip shook my hand. "Congratulations, Bruce. You just made a very smart financial decision." "Thank you," I said. The money hit my account that afternoon. I checked my phone 3 times to make sure the number was real. $1.2 million. After taxes and fees, I would walk away with just over $900,000. It was more money than I had ever imagined having. I did not tell anyone. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop 2 towns over, a place I had never been, where no one knew my name. I ordered a black coffee and sat by the window, watching people walk by. A couple with a stroller. An older man with a dog. A teenager on a skateboard. I thought about what Xavier had said, about Mason's house losing value. I thought about the calls, the desperation, the anger. I thought about the years I spent trying to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for me. And then I stopped thinking about them altogether. I pulled out my phone and opened a real estate app. I searched for properties near the coast. Small houses. Quiet neighborhoods. Places with good schools, even though I did not have kids. Places where I could start over. I saved 3 listings. Then I finished my coffee, left a generous tip, and walked out into the afternoon sun. Somewhere behind me, Mason was probably trying to figure out how to salvage his property value. Dad was probably justifying my absence to anyone who asked. Mom was probably silent, the way she always was. But I was not thinking about them anymore. I was thinking about the future. My future. The one I had just bought with 18 years of invisible labor and 6 months of silent planning. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove towards something new. For the first time in my life, I was not looking back.